So it's about 20 years ago now, and I'm sat on a South Coast train on my way into London. It's raining, average British day, mid-morning, midweek, really nothing remarkable about this journey. And I'm sat there for a while, and I've finished reading the couple of sheets of newspaper that somebody had left on my seat. And I'd looked around me and sort of summed everybody up. I'm always wondering who people are and what their story is. And there was a little old lady sat across the table from me, and she was sat there knitting, like something pink and for a baby, it looked like. And there was a young man next to me, and he sort of looked like he was trussed up in this sort of ill-fitting suit, and he was all uncomfortable and nervous, and he was playing with his tie. That was him. And I looked out the window and I daydreamed a bit. Daydreaming. Do you remember daydreaming? That thing we used to do before we had phones. It's vastly underrated, you think? Anyway, I looked up and there was a lady working her way down the aisle towards me. And she's sort of in her late 50s, early 60s, and she's carrying a hot cup of coffee in one hand and a rolled up paper bag in the other. And she's sort of steadying herself with her elbows on the backs of the chairs as she's coming towards us. And suddenly, very violently, the carriage sort of jolted to one side and then the other. And she's trying to sort of steady herself, and in doing so kind of loses her balance and kind of dives forward and punches, accidentally, the young man next to me in the chest with the cup of hot coffee. Oh, yeah. And he bolts up, and he's like, and he pulls his shirt out of his pants, and he's fanning his scalded belly, and he's like, and the lady, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm flapping around. She's searching around in her bag for some tissues to mop it up, and so is everybody within earshot. And she looks at the young man, and she says, and you're so smart. And he went, yeah, I was going for an interview. And she went, oh, right. I'm going to put this right. When we get into the station in London, I am going to take you to the nearest department store, and I will buy you a new shirt, new tie, new jacket, whatever. And if you're late, I'll take you to that interview, and I'll speak to that boss, and I will tell him why, and I'll say it's my fault. And now this poor young man, his outfit is ruined, his belly is scalded, and probably worse, particularly being British, everybody's looking at him. And he's mortally embarrassed. And he's going, oh, no, it's fine, it's good, it's fine, no, it's good, really good. And this lady, she's beginning to get really teary. And I'm thinking, I'm going to intervene. I have to do something. And so I reached over and I put my hand on her arm and I said, why don't you just sit down for a minute? You know, kind of just calm down, let the dust settle, and I think everything will work out fine. And she said, oh, I suppose so. And she sat down and she calmed down. And after a while I said, where is that accent from? You're not from around here, are you? And she went, no, I'm from New Zealand. And I said, oh. And she goes, oh, but no, I was born here. I was born in Bournemouth on the south coast. And she said, actually, I've come back for a couple of weeks because I'm trying to find some of my family. And I went, oh. And she said, yeah, well, you see, I came from Bournemouth where I lived with my parents, and they divorced when I was 4. And well, me and my 2 sisters, we went to go live with my mum. And the boys, my brothers, they went to go and live with their father. And, my mum remarried, and we moved to New Zealand, and I actually never saw my brothers ever again. And I've come back to find them, and she's getting teary again. And she said, I think I was really close, but I haven't managed to find them, and actually I'm on my way back to London because I'm flying back out tomorrow. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry. What were their names? Now, I do actually have to tell you at this point, I don't remember their names, but they were very sort of English-sounding names like Ian, Brian, and John, so I'm going to use those for this purpose. So she said, Ian, Brian, and John. And then the young man next to me sort of perked up a bit and said, my dad's name's John, and those are his brother's names, and he's from Bournemouth. And she went, really? And he went, yeah. And she went, oh, and her eyes became even bigger and started to leak more. And then she let her breath go, and she lost it. And she was crying and sobbing, trying to breathe and trying to speak all at the same time. And it was like, now, this lady and this young man had already caught the attention of everybody around us with the hot coffee incident. And they're, of course, listening in, but being very British and pretending not to, sort of, kind of badly. But at this point, they all went, oh? And they looking backwards and forwards, and people's hands were going to their mouth, and there was a few glassy eyes, and I was feeling really sort of emotional too. And so it transpired that this lady, through some random act of coffee spilling, had found her long-lost nephew, and I'm guessing was soon to be reunited with her long-lost brothers. And it was, soon we pulled into the station, and they went on their merry way, and I was kind of left in sort of awe and kind of shock. And once I sort of calmed down, it occurred to me that somehow, through just some tiny intervention and a small act of kindness, I somehow helped these two find each other, and it felt really special. And in all the years since, I've travelled the world, I've lived all over the world, I've kind of made it my job to, as I travel, to speak to people and to sort of look for opportunities to offer random acts of kindness, because you never know what you might find. Thank you.